Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and probably sound a little off this morning. Kind of having one of my bad days. Those of you guys who have been around the channel long enough really kind of know what that means. But we're picking up with Thor issue number 5, right? And in this series so far, we kind of had this scenario where you had like the Black Winter, right? And all we knew about the Black Winter was that it was this kind of being that existed out there that was capable of just seemingly annihilating entire universes, right? Our first introduction to it was that it seemed to wipe out the DC universe. It wasn't explicitly stated, but by the nature of the characters, that's kind of what we saw. And then Thor was ultimately inducted as a herald of Galactus in order to destroy the Black Winter. And a lot of it was because Galactus seemed to see his own death from the Black Winter, which is what it does. It shows you how it is you're going to die. And then Thor effectively helped Galactus track down 5 different planets, all of which had a unique energy signature that would allow Galactus to consume those worlds in preparation for boosting his power and facing off against the Black Winter. And so what this does is this initially opens up with Sif, who, as most of you guys know, was the one-time girlfriend of Thor who'd taken the place of her brother Heimdall and is now essentially the Asgardian who watches everything unfold. And for the most part, it's all kind of pandemonium, right? Thor and Galactus facing off against the Black Winter. Thor's been absorbed at this point alongside Galactus. Sif can't see him anymore. You've got Beta Ray Bill, who's still recovering from his injuries where he had the crap beat out of him by Thor, basically for doing nothing more than standing in his way. But jumping over to Thor himself alongside Galactus, the fight against the Black Winter goes exactly as you would expect, right? They're overwhelmed quite readily, and they're doing the best they can, right? But the funny thing is the Black Winter starts to talk to Thor, and it basically refers to him as the king of Asgard, the god of thunder, so on and so forth. So the Black Winter knows who he is. And then where Galactus continues to try to fight, the Black Winter tells him to stop, and it says like, calm down, and initially kind of approaches him as like a friend of sorts, right? Like, I'm here to talk to you, like I'm here to understand what's going on, like that kind of a thing. But like immediately, it's one of these things where it becomes kind of like this menacing force, where it basically asks Thor the question, you know, do you want to see how you die? And for the most part, at that point in time, like when that happens, it seizes control of Galactus and then immediately takes over Galactus and basically seems to kind of shut down the power he has, or at the very least the power he has is nowhere near enough to defeat the Black Winter, which really shows us that like Galactus's attempts to defeat this entity using all this energy that he absorbed was really more of like a guess, right? It was really more just an estimation as to kind of the kind of power he needed in order to win. And then Thor does what he can. And so ultimately Thor ends up kind of absorbed by the Black Winter and then wakes up in this almost kind of puzzle of sorts, right? You got like the Penrose steps, the steps that go nowhere, right? That kind of a thing. And when that happens, the Black Winter still kind of speaks almost from the shadows, right? Kind of like this ambiguous force. And Thor kind of calls him out, right? It's sort of like, you know, like face me, like I want to know who you are, show me who you are. And it's almost kind of taunting, right? Like I offer you a truth, right? I offer you a gift. I offer you the ability to know what your end is going to be when you end up dying. And so it's not really done from a place of kindness. It's done from a place of just being a dick. And so this basically leads to Thor finally calling out the Black Winter, and when the Black Winter appears, it shows up as Gore the God Butcher. And Thor immediately begins to panic, right? His idea is like, I killed you, you're supposed to be dead. That's not how this works. And that's kind of how the Black Winter functions, right? It's not about just a physical conflict, it's psychological warfare. Because following that, it changes into the being Loki. After that, it changes into Mangog. And then suddenly it becomes all the various enemies of Thor, right? It becomes the serpent across the world. It becomes Mephisto. It becomes Doctor Doom, the Juggernaut, Apocalypse, Malekith, basically every foe that Thor has ever faced over the course of his entire history. And the funny thing about this is that the Black Winter makes this comment that these would all have been the end of Thor. Thor would have been killed in all these various circumstances. In Uncanny Avengers, for example, the first time that Thor fights Apocalypse, that's how we end up finding out that Bjorn was magically enchanted. Thor had to use that in order to defeat Apocalypse. But had that not happened, Thor would have been killed, right? Apocalypse would have overpowered him and would have completely and totally destroyed him. And that's kind of how this is, right? That the Black Winter kind of makes this comment about how Thor was supposed to have died so many times. He was supposed to die against the Beyonder. He was supposed to die against the Serpent. He was supposed to die in Ragnarok. He was supposed to die at the hands of Annihilus over and over and over again. He was supposed to have been killed, right? And in a lot of ways, he was. He was burned. He was atomized, crucified. He was completely and totally unmade, right? In all these various instances, he was supposed to be totally eliminated. But by some manner, he always ended up coming back because there's something out there, and we're not really told if this is a literal thing or a metaphorical thing, but there's someone out there that's basically kind of slithering through time, changing things up, right? Killing his destiny on what he's supposed to be, or basically breaking his fate, that kind of a thing, and it's almost like he sort of taunts like this Black Winter has a bit of knowledge out there that Thor doesn't have. And that kind of makes sense. If you're talking about an entity powerful enough to basically be an entire universe, then it means it would encompass the entirety of the universe, right? So the past, the present, and the future. And so if that's the case, then it essentially means that this being would have knowledge of all the past, the present, and the future. And so it would actually know how Thor is going to die. And so where he's consistently being taunted and facing off against all these foes that are easily overpowering him, right? Apocalypse, Surtur, all these different guys, Thor does the only thing he can do. He takes all the energy that he has within himself and within Mjolnir and basically channels it into the God Blast. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, the God Blast is the most powerful weapon in Thor's arsenal, right? The most powerful ability, not really a weapon, but the most powerful ability he has, right? The ability to channel all of his energy into a single blow. The power of the God Blast is enough that he can actually damage a celestial with it. You're talking about an exceedingly high amount of energy. Now, it's also incredibly exhausting. The only thing that I would say might rival the power of the God Blast might be like Thor's Berserker Rage, right? His Warrior's Madness, where he just loses all sense of self and just kind of goes absolutely insane. So basically the same as Wolverine's Berserker Rage, his Berserker state, right? And so finally, with Galactus basically being freed by the help of the God Blast of Thor, and then Thor himself being freed, this kind of forces the Black Winter to essentially back off. And so Thor finally calls and says like I want to know who you are, right? Like, show me who you are. If you believe that I'm afraid of my end, then you're mistaken, right? Show me my end and see if the Odinson blinks. And the response of the God Winter is, very well, I will show you your end, but it's not yours. Not yet. And then he basically appears as Thor himself, right? He appears as basically like an evil, dark version of Thor. And that's when Thor begins to realize this is what Galactus saw that led him to making Thor his herald in the first place. This evil Black Winter version of himself. The idea that Thor would basically be the undoing of Galactus. That seemed to be the case, that Galactus himself was going to die. Now, it seems like Galactus may not have fully understood what he was seeing. I have a hard time believing that, but having the Black Winter appear as Thor and then seemingly saying something like, I will be your end, would indicate that Thor would be the one who would kill Galactus. Doesn't really seem to be the case, but still, Thor is kind of like, okay, like enough of your talk. It doesn't matter what it is that you're here for or anything like that. Like, if you're here to be an enemy, then we'll make an enemy out of you and we'll destroy you. What is it that you actually want here? And it's kind of funny because Galactus starts kind of explaining things and saying, yes, I saw you as my end and all that kind of stuff. And the Black Winter basically reveals that's not true. What Galactus has been telling Thor is not true. That none of what Galactus has said is honest. That in fact, Galactus has basically been trying to use Thor as a means to end the Black Winter. And the reason why he's been trying to do that is because of what the Black Winter is here for. The Black Winter is not here for to conquer the universe. It's not here to destroy the universe or anything of that sort. The Black Winter has been hunting across the various universes that are out there for the sole purpose of finding Galactus. Now, it is kind of strange, right? Because when it comes to Marvel Comics, we know that there are an infinite number of Galactuses, right? One Galactus for every universe. That was covered in the Abraxas saga. The idea that every universe had at some point in time a guy named Galen, and by whatever manner and whatever means that universe came to an end, Galen merged with the sentience of that universe and then was reborn into the new universe as Galactus. But the fact is that like the whole Abraxas saga was kind of swept under the rug by Marvel. That's one of those stories that you read where it takes place and then Marvel just ignores it forevermore, right? And so because of that, we've never really heard any kind of reference to Abraxas or any of those things. So there's no reason to believe that aside from maybe the version of Galactus we saw in the Ultimate Universe and whatever versions we may have seen around the multiverse, that there really is no Galactus or no other versions of Galactus. Or we could say this is Galactus Prime, right? The relationship that the Black Winter has with this Galactus is unique. And indeed it is, right? The Black Winter says, I'm here for him, for the one I spared, for the one I created, for Galen of Ta, for Galactus, my herald. And so seemingly Galactus was at one point a herald of the Black Winter. And the Black Winter has come to reclaim his herald. He's come to reclaim what is rightfully his. But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end. Again, I apologize that it's not my most exciting self. There's kind of a lot that I'm going through at the moment, and it's I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It's rough. It's a pretty rough spot. It's a pretty rough spot to be in. I'm struggling pretty hard, right? So yeah, we're gonna bring this video to an end. Now we'll catch you all later. Peace.